you look around your region, you can look to the south, and there's Sudan, where there's also fighting underway. What role does Egypt have in trying to bring about some sort of peace there? And when you look at that and the loss of life and the fighting, what are your thoughts?
Well, of course, Sudan is our direct neighbor to the south. We have a long history of association and interrelationship at the people-to-peoples level. And we are highly concerned with the conflict, the military nature, the effects on the humanitarian conditions, and the instability that the situation can produce in the region, and that can have a ripple effect as it relates to the neighboring states. We have been in consultations with all of the various Sudanese political elements to advise moderation, cessation of hostilities, broadening the political dialogue to resolve this crisis, but also to put in place a roadmap for the future. We have expanded that when President Sisi hosted at the summit level the neighbors of Sudan, again, a group of countries that have strong relationships and contacts with Sudan and are at the same time the most affected by the instability and by the influx of our Sudanese brothers and sisters who are seeking shelter and refuge from the current conflict and the consequent economic burdens that are attached to that. The summit delegated to the foreign ministers who met in N'Djamena to put in place practical measures that could be implemented to relieve the crisis, and that was done. And we met here again to refine and to distribute the responsibilities in implementation of the roadmap. And we do so in consultations with the other formats, whether it's the trilateral, the quadrilateral, the African Union, the IGAD. I think the situation is of great concern to the region, might produce very adverse consequences, create a vacuum that will be taken advantage of by the spread of terrorism. So we have every interest to do whatever we can to resolve the conflict.
But regionally, when you look at your map and your neighbors, I mean, you can look to the other side. Here's Libya. There's still fighting going on there. There's instability in Chad. Not too far from you is Yemen, where there's a civil war. You're involved in the business of dialogue and trying to bring people together. And so talk to me about the region. Are there areas where you see some glimmers of hope, or how do you view things?
Well, maybe the glimmer of hope is that Egypt, stable, is on a road of renewal. It has achieved a great deal within this last 10 years in stability and engagement with its neighbors, and being able to have a wide and broad associations regionally and internationally to benefit its developmental objectives, but also to forge better understandings and more stability and security. And we will continue to play this is a traditional role in helping to resolve conflicts, in addressing the issues that exist practically and objectively, with a view of regaining the equilibrium that unfortunately has been lost over the last decade or two. We see the fragmentation, the implosion of the state system, which is the guarantor of the provision of the will of various peoples, whether in Libya, in Sudan, in Yemen, anywhere else where we need to regain the credibility of state institutions and provide them the ability to respond to the needs and aspirations of their people in collaborations with their partners and whether at the regional or international level.
There's also pressure on countries that are stable like yours that you just described, the glimmer of hope, because people want to escape the violence, and in Sudan that might mean that refugees are coming in. Libya, they're coming in. Chad, they might be coming in. There's a refugee crisis out there that's huge. What's the answer there? What's it look like on the ground in the region right now?
It is a very challenging situation, and Egypt bears quite a burden. It bears it in recognition of the fraternal ties that exist between Egypt and its neighboring countries. It has a tradition of providing shelter and security, and has never established refugee camps, but has always allowed its guests to integrate into the society and to live with all of the resources that are accorded to Egyptian citizens. Again, we do so out of principles, out of our obligations to our international commitments, and we will continue to do so despite the economic burden that's associated with it. And we hope that it is recognized by the international community the need to support Egypt in this regard. It has not been forthcoming, and we will not change course even if it doesn't materialize out of principle, but we recognize that this is a sensitive issue in many quarters to the north, and we hope that there will be a more impactful response, a response that we have always advocated should be comprehensive, that we should deal with this issue from countries of origin, transit, and destination, and that we should not only concentrate on the security dimension, but most certainly on the developmental and the social and cultural aspects related to it, and increase the potential of legal migration to offset the negative effects of illegal immigration.